find some sort of harmony and balance. Luke and what he was doing with Instagram, what Frank talked about, any of this stuff, or even maybe what you're getting right now in support with your brokerage. I don't know. Maybe people are giving you some solid advice or giving you some action steps and you're not taking them. I don't know. I'm not you, right? But I literally went to them. I was like, I'll do whatever you say. Just tell me what to do. Okay, here's a plan. Okay, cool. And without questioning it, I took the plan and I did it. 2 weeks later, hey, I got my first listing. A week later, another listing. Then I went, no, I got those two, right? And I double-ended one of them, got another listing like a week later. So that's my first month. Of course, I think I'm the man. I'm like, this shit's easy. Real estate, oh, you guys talked all this shit that it was gonna be hard. This is easy. Then I went, while continuing to work hard, it was like a 3-month period where I got nothing. Now after that, it took off, right? But there was a 3-month period there of nothing. And I'm talking grinding day in, day out, talking to 50 people a day, building my database, right? Doing, a lot of things right. But what started to slip? My mental. I started being like, man, this is what's wrong and this and that. And I got very negative in my head, right? And that started lingering with me. And I said, okay, well, nothing's changing. I need to change something. Switch my mentality to stop complaining, basically doing what most people do. Within a couple weeks, everything changed, right? I stopped complaining about the market or the other people. I started looking at myself and saying, okay, can I sharpen up my skills? I started looking at me first versus just, no, well, they're crazy. Oh, he told me no. Well, he listed with somebody else, right? And we start getting into that whole, well, there's too much competition, right? Well, this company, that, like, you start saying ridiculous things. And a lot of times nobody else hears it but you, but that's the worst because that recorder is always going on in your mind, right? Like if I was to ask you guys, if in the 24-hour period, the conversations that you have with yourself in your mind, we got a megaphone, right, and the whole world heard what you said about yourself, how would you feel? I would feel damn proud. Some people would probably think I'm crazy for sure. You probably already think that now, right? But like, I would be proud. If someone questioned it, well, I'd be like, yeah, of course I'm going to think highly of myself. It's my own thoughts. But are you going to govern my own thoughts? Like, there's no limit to that. So if I'm going to speak positively about myself, what do you think that's going to do or impact me when I come on stage to speak? You think I'm going to be scared? No, I'm going to be fired up. Let's go. Versus most people's, you're going to hear, oh, you can't do that. What are you doing? Well, your mom's right. You're never going to be a good realtor. Like all that stuff, dude, it's crazy. That's what I started changing. And just identifying with basic logic a lot of things. Love my parents, right? They were giving me real estate advice and I erroneously was listening to them. Until I said, okay, let's think about this thing logically. My parents fucking barely speak English. The fuck do they know about real estate, right? Like, let's stop. I can't be looking at my coach and then looking at my mom and dad and be like, they're on an even playing field with this advice. Whose advice should I take? It just doesn't make sense, right? But again, I wasn't taught to do that. I don't know about you. And a lot of times this basic logic, we don't apply it to these things. Oh, you can't door knock and cold call. Everybody's going to tell you no. It's like, dude, you've never picked up the phone a day in your life. What do you mean? Well, that's what everyone, everyone knows that. Really? Everybody knows that? And I realized, man, like everything and everyone is trying to work against you with these basic little concepts and little things that they say. It's nuts. So what did I do? I sold my role. I shrunk that circle and people that I was in contact with on a daily basis because you need to do that immediately unless you're around, this is what I call it. Do people around you speak life into you or do they take it away from you? The people I'm around and spend time with speak life into me and I speak life into them and it's reciprocal. They don't drain or take anything away from me, right? And that's a tough pill for a lot of people to swallow because you'll realize, damn, my best friend drains the life out of me, right? It's going to be up to you to do something about that. I can't tell you what to do. But that was a change I made immediately that just shifted everything for me. Because you don't realize how much of the energy and those thoughts and even their mannerisms you carry with you. It's nuts. Like I'm sure many of you have had a moment where maybe, I don't know, somebody cut you off in traffic and then you said or did something that your dad would do back in the day, right? Because, we observe, right? That's what kids do, right? They observe you and then they start, like you yell at somebody and they're like, yeah, like they do as you do. We do the same thing and it's so programmed in you, you don't even realize it. So if you're spending time with your best friend and they're sucking the life out of you, you're probably doing that to other people. Or you have no life left, but again, they've sucked it out of you for so long, you have no idea, right? Your facial expressions, everything will be similar, right? If you're now trying to get in this mood of talking to people and being more open and social, and they're antisocial, well, guess what? You're being pulled two different ways. You need to get around the people who talk more, who force you to do an event like this. You can tell them on our leadership meetings, I've been on their asses about doing these events. I'm like, so where are those dates? Let's go. Let's get this thing started, right? Because I kind of am governing. I don't even want to say I'm the leader because this is a joint thing in our community, but I'm in a way spearheading this thing because I've done stuff like this for years and they're plugging in now and they're starting to do it. But I'm holding them accountable and be like, hey, let's do it. I'll shoot them a text. Hey, where's an update, right? Like, that's who you want around you. And a lot of times, you're going to have to go on hunt to find those people, right? I had to. That was the best benefit that I got from joining the coaching. It wasn't the information I was getting, it was the people that I met and the connections that I made. By far, I'm friends with some of them to this day, 10 years later, and they're checking in on me. Hey, you making your calls? You doing this? Again, when I looked around me before I went on that hunt, there was nobody around me doing millions and exhibiting a lot of these qualities that I told you guys about. Which is why initially I started a mastermind when I started by myself. And I said, hey, let me try to find some people on social media. But now it didn't work out, right? But in my mind, I was like, man, I need to create this thing then, right? And even now within a couple of my coaching programs, because I have a ton of them, I wanted to create that environment and community that I knew people can tap into. And that's really key here, right? So if you can't find it, you got to create it. But I was willing to do it. And I created a ton of masterminds before I finally decided to go the route that I went, right? But that's what it takes if you want to hold yourself to that standard, achieve all these things, and do all these things that they even just discussed today. Because the average realtor isn't going to get up and do everything they talked about today. Just, oh, okay, yeah, I'm going to do it. I was even talking with Luke about it. You could give it to people on a silver platter, and like 1 out of 100 will actually apply it. It's crazy. Same thing with social media. Like, I exploded on social media. The opposite of Luke. I didn't have any plan. I didn't care. I was just putting stuff out because I wanted to put stuff out, and it exploded. Maybe because I was just being real raw and authentic with people about my journey and what I was doing. But it worked. But one thing that I did that he brought up, I was more consistent than anybody else. Every day, right? I would have people message me from my database, man, I can't open up a social media app without seeing you. And I said, I'm doing my job, right? That was my response to that. I go on Facebook, I see you. I go on Instagram, I see you. I go on YouTube, I see you. I go outside, I see you knocking in the neighborhood. Yep, I got you online and in person, right? And that's been the prevailing theme with everything I do, whether it's, building the skills and reading and educating myself, building my business, whatever it is. It's just been that consistency. And that's really kind of what I want to leave you guys with before, we'll open up to Q&A if you guys have questions for myself, Frank, or Luke. But you got to do, even if you itemize 2 things from today, hey, I'm going to do these 2 things, just do them and stick with it for 90 days. Hey, you know what? I'm going to do 2 property tours a week. Do it for 90 days. Do it for 90 days, right? That would be 2 property tours a week times 12 weeks. What is that? 24. Commit to that, right? Then you'll see at the end, make an assessment, but go hard for 90 days. That's what I tell people. I've never had somebody do that and then come back and say, well, it didn't work. They're like, oh man, I got 4 more deals. Normally I do 1 deal a month. I actually got 4 more in those 3 months, right? Something's going to happen, but again, it's going to be different for all of you, right? Maybe some of you don't want to do social media. That's fine. Doesn't matter. You can do it at a later time, but pick 1 or 2 itemized specific things that you're going to do and say, okay, I'm going to commit to this. And it could be as simple as waking up early at 5. But then you'll realize when you get up, like, oh man, there's a lot that I can do with this thing, and that's going to open the door to what you need, okay? So any questions, y'all, for me, Luke, Frank, or anything, even if you're dealing with something that's unrelated to this, we can help you out. Because my team, I got about 30 members on my team. We're in 13 or 14 different states, and I've heard all different kinds of problems, so I'm sure I have a solution if you got one. Speak now or forever hold your peace.
I have a question. So I'm brand new, and I got my license 2 weeks ago.
Cool.
So any first steps that you would recommend taking, as a brand new agent, what would
Yeah, I think a lot of stuff, especially that Frank covered today, is real simple. Just off the top of my head, I would for sure create some sort of bona fide schedule that you're going to follow, as many days of the week that you're going to work, right? Whatever you elect, 3 days, 4 days, 5 days, 6 days, whatever it is. Itemize a few key tasks that you're going to do, like prospecting, how you're going to go about it, identifying the lead sources, like you said, and just getting to work. Because the way the industry is, especially when you're new, the beauty of it is if you get out there and hustle, the questions will come up, right? Like, come to me and tell me, I got somebody who's interested, how do I convert them? Okay, I can help you. Versus us just talking theory, you know? That's the simplest thing I can recommend. Because, you know, I'm sure you guys can find a bunch of stuff online now too, with like a business plan, like a mock business plan kind of formula, where it's like you just fill in the blank. How much GCI do I want to do this year? How many days am I going to work, right? Like all that stuff, all those templates are out there now. Just fill that out and then just start working. Because when the questions come, you can reach out to us and we can address it. And then it's a specific question that we can help you with, right? Like the antithesis of that would be like an agent telling me, hey man, you know, I'm going through the process of getting my license or not licensed. What's a good gift to buy a client in closing if it's a buyer? I'm like, dude, you don't have your license yet. But what do? They go on the fucking rabbit hole of YouTube and start watching a bunch of pointless videos that don't have any reference to where they're at, but they're being productive because they're watching YouTube videos, you know? But I've seen that and we laugh, but I get a lot of that. And I'm like, man, this isn't a movie, bro. Like, you got to get to work. Like, chill. If anything, I say work on your sales skills, because then by the time you get your license, you can actually talk to people. You'll be more proficient, right? But the main point is you got to be talking to a lot of people every day, right? You are the brand, right? You couldn't go anywhere, even now in Miami, and I've only been in Miami 2 years, or the areas that I worked in LA, where if we went to the stores that I would go to, the gym, that somebody wouldn't come up to me and say hi, or you would notice it like, damn, he knows a lot of people. Even now at the gym. I invited my friend to come work out with me, like 3 people came up to me at the gym, oh man, yeah, I've seen your stuff online and da-da-da. And I was like, you see, right? It's not a brag thing, I'm pushing my brand. People know me. I want that, right? So you gotta be talking to a lot of people every day. And if that's not, people say, well, that's not me. You gotta morph, you gotta evolve. Right? Because it's not normal for human beings to be scared to interact with each other. We can be cautious because you don't know, but we shouldn't be scared, especially if we have a service or something to offer, to open up a conversation with somebody in today's society and just ask them, right?
How many contacts do you think a newer agent should be reaching out to on a daily basis?
I would say minimum 30 if you want to build a big business, right? If someone comes to me, hey Bryan, I'm part-time, I just want to sell a couple houses a year, I'll say, yeah, if you talk to probably 5-10 people a day, you can do that. But if you want to be doing 20, 30, 40, 50 transactions, grow a business, build that pipeline, build your database to where it feeds you and you have like a monster of a business that makes you really good money, you got to be talking to a lot. And the beauty of it is the more you do up front, the less you have to do later. I killed myself for 2 or 3 years doing that, but then I had a database of like 3,000 something people. I was already doing, 70, 80 transactions. I started building out my team. Now the game changed. So if somebody said, were those 2 or 3 years of grinding worth it? I was like, hell yeah. It's tough, because in the moment you're like, I'm working 12-hour, 14-hour days, right? But the payoff is always there, but you got to do it consistently, But the name of the game is to talk to people, right? Or, in Luke's case, you have the world watching you. My recommendation would be to do both. Yeah. Because when you guys go out and you talk to people, like especially if you do, like again, commit to 90 days. I'm going to go door to door every day and I'm going to make calls. You will build so much resilience and skill in those 90 days that you'll never learn doing anything else. I've told people, in my eyes, like going door to door and cold calling and doing like cold prospecting is like the most impactful self-help you can do on this planet, because it forces you to confront yourself. Like if you have any insecurities, they're going to be exposed when you go door to door and make phone calls and talk to people, right? Because they're screaming at you. Like let's say you don't like your nose, and you talk to somebody, you're like, let's say I'm talking to Luke, oh shit, he's looking at my nose, huh? Like that's how you're thinking, right? But after you talk to 100 people, you're like, nobody cares about my fucking nose, right? But you're not going to have that click until you actually do it. And finding individuals I've noticed who socially are 100% comfortable, is so rare. It's so rare. But see, that gives you a superpower when you meet with buyers or sellers, because every other realtor is tight, nervous, tense, and you're just smooth as silk with people. And I always emphasize this to buyers and sellers. I'll say with me, for sure, with me or my team members, for sure, it will be the smoothest experience and the least stressful and hassle. and hassle, for sure. Because I know what it's like to be on the other end and not feel comfortable, especially when they're making a decision of that magnitude. So I know if I'm super comfortable and I can communicate to them a certain way and be comfortable myself, it's going to make it that much better for them, right? And that, to me, you unlock through the effort of talking to people all the time. So now, when you meet with the Mr. Buyer and Seller here, and their conversation number 6,533, it's easy, right? Same thing with, like, you guys got to practice a lot, like role playing. I think I recorded, critiqued, watched, and analyzed at least a couple hundred of my listing presentations that I would record and do. I've done it in front of my first office. On a Friday meeting, I asked if I could do a listing presentation in front of everybody of like 80 agents. I did it. Like, I was always putting myself to the test. Because then again, imagine doing a listing presentation even in front of this group where we sit down and you do your presentation. Right? Now when you just meet with the seller, it's going to be easy because you're like, oh, I don't have people watching me anymore. This is easy, right? But it's the same analogy I gave you earlier about making practice hard and the game is easy. It's the same thing. So, you know, an agent will come to me and say, well, I don't follow any presentation. I never practice. Well, of course the listing is going to be hard then. It's the only one you've done in the last 6 months. But if you've done 100, you're going to be a lot better, right? It's just one of those things. But again, no one's going to, and this is the crazy part about real estate, because you're an entrepreneur, nobody's going to be checking in on you, right? Even your broker, right? Your broker, they're not obligated to do that. You're technically an independent contractor. You're not even their employee, so they don't owe you anything. And they're liable for your mistakes, right? Because let's say I work under Luke and he's the broker. If I mess up, they don't sue me, they sue him, right? And a lot of people forget that. So we have to be self-accountable. Yeah, accountability is great. Let's say me and Frank do this accountability thing, but what's senior to that is self-accountability. You need to hold yourself accountable. You can't expect them. If we go to the gym and we're accountability partners, well, Frank's not going today, so I'm not going to the gym. No, dude, you still go. You still go, right? But again, you have to hold yourself accountable, and nobody really knows to the extent that you do except for you.